Hey, what's up guys and gals? It's the Tyrant here and welcome to my weekly Q&A session. I just got back from vacation yesterday. Little details on that. I know I left a lot out in my last Q&A session. So this past week, my wife and I went on our honeymoon. We've been married for years, but here's the sad part of the story. You guys know about my accident. You know that I became crippled a couple of years ago. That accident happened just a few weeks after I got married. So we didn't get to go on a honeymoon, and so, you know, I'm still crippled, but we decided that this would be a good time to actually take our honeymoon, so we decided on Disney World. So we went to Disney World for a week. It was a blast. We stayed in Animal Kingdom. You know, it was a good time. It's been years since I've even had a vacation, so it was nice to finally be able to take that. Basically, that's why I've been quiet this past week. If you've seen that I haven't replied to comments as much as I usually do, it's because I was, you know, on vacation. I didn't want to spend all my time on my phone. So, and of course, that's mostly to benefit my wife, not just myself. So, again, I do appreciate everyone who commented this week. You may have noticed that videos were still being posted regardless. The last video that I made last week was, well, hold on, back for a second. So after my Q&A session last week, I went ahead and wrapped up the videos through Wednesday of this past week. So I was able to pre-upload them so that they they would come out at their normal scheduled times. That way you guys would still have content even though I wasn't around to post it. The most recent video that I did where I did not pre-upload it, of course, was my video from last night, which was in addition to my Halo 5 Guardians Legendary walkthrough, the mission Battle of Sanayan. And literally, I worked on that mission as soon as I came home, straight from the airplane, because I just did not have time the previous week. So I got that uploaded, and now we're doing the Q&A session today, and things are pretty much back to normal. So I missed you guys, and it's good to be back. So for those of you who don't know how this works, for the Q&A sessions, if you want to submit a question that I'll feature in a video, all you need to do is leave it in the comments section. From there, I'll go ahead and add it to my list to be featured in the following video. If for whatever reason I missed your question, you know, I do get asked a lot of questions, and I try to keep the number down to about 10 to 15 questions per video. So if I miss yours, just hit me up in the next weekly or the next Q&A session. Just mention in your comment, hey Tyrant, you missed it last time, could you please include it this time, and I'll do my best to include it. If I still somehow manage to blink out and don't answer it or whatever, you know, feel free to hit me up on Twitter as well, because that is the easiest way to contact me. So essentially, you ask the questions in the comments section and I will feature it in that video, and hopefully at some point I'll also start listing the names of the YouTubers and the timestamps as well in the description. So thank you guys so much. It's always good to see you ask questions. This is my favorite part of the week because it gives me a chance to interact with you guys, and it turns this from a content creator fan base relationship to a community, and that's exactly the way I want it. You are not my fans, you are community members. You are an extended family to me. So it's always good to have you here, and let's get to it. Our first question comes from Matt G, and Matt asks, do you think that Halo would benefit from dropping its console exclusiveness? Okay, we'll just say that. So Matt G asks, do you think Halo would benefit from being cross-platform? Halo would, Microsoft would not. They would probably sell more copies of Halo, because I'm sure there are a lot of PlayStation exclusive players out there who've always been curious about Halo, and they would more than likely get the game, but it's not going to happen. Halo is Microsoft's baby. Halo is Microsoft's baby. They would never just sell out like that. They just wouldn't do that. Not with Halo. It's been Microsoft exclusive for, you know, 16 years now. That'll never happen. You do see some Halo crossover with PC, but keep in mind that Microsoft does own Windows, and when they start introducing Halo concepts into Windows 10, that does encourage users to upgrade to Windows 10 as well. So that does help Microsoft. Now, how would it hurt them if they went cross-platform? Obviously, with Halo being a big seller for them, that would also hurt the sales of Xbox. So absolutely not. I can't see that overall benefiting Microsoft? Again, maybe Halo, but not Microsoft in general. So that is a good question, Matt. Thank you. Our next question comes from Super Ammo. You know what? I could use some Super Ammo right now. And Super Ammo asks, if you were to make your own multiplayer mode, what would it be about? What would be the objective, etc.? This is a good question. So I've made multiplayer modes before when I did custom games back in the day when I modded Halo PC. One that I thought would be a good one just to incorporate, especially in modern Halo games, was sort of a cross between zombies and moving King of the Hill. So what do I mean by that? In King of the Hill, you have to occupy a certain area for points. When the hill moves, you actually have to follow it around. You can't just stay in one spot. This would be sort of a mix between that and zombies. So instead of killing for points in a zombie mode, you would want to, while you're alive, try to collect points by being in the hill. So you'd have to move around with the other survivors constantly while also avoiding the zombies in order to rack up points. Again, it's a challenge. I know it sounds confusing, but it's something that I've sort of toyed with Halo 2 Vista, and it's something that I think would be fun in a mainstream game. But that's a great question, Super Ammo. Thank you. Our next question comes from Captain Sarowick. And I always love hearing from this guy. And Captain asks, what kind of Halo do you think we would get if Bungie and 343 worked together? This is an interesting question. And they kind of sort of are. And again, I know that sounds kind of weird. Remember, there are a handful of people at 343 Industries that worked for Bungie. One of the key people who doesn't, obviously, is Joseph Staten, even though he is currently employed by Microsoft. And if he got involved, it'd be interesting just to see where he would take the story. The only thing that I would think would really majorly differ in that area would be, one, the commitment towards the fans. In other words, being a lot more interactive and providing fans with more just general service. But the main thing would be having a complete story that didn't fall out of bounds. A story that did not rely so much on outside material. So that's the one thing that I would honestly think that Bungie would bring to the table. Obviously, Bungie and 343 Industries will never work together. And if you've seen these two in the same room at the same time, you know that to be true. But it is an interesting concept and a great question, so thanks for asking, Captain. Our next question comes from Hamza Jundai. And he asks, is there anything you've seen in a sci-fi series or any other series that you'd like to see in a Halo game? Absolutely. I've mentioned in previous videos that one of the more captivating sci-fi movies that I've ever seen, as cheesy as it is Starship Troopers. So it'd be kind of cool to have sort of a reenactment of just the general concept of there being several waves of enemies just pouring your way while you're trying to hold a position down, and you've got tons of Marines trying to help you out. There is obviously a Starship Troopers game out there, but it sucked. And it'd be kind of cool to see Halo do that. But more so, my favorite sci-fi movie of all time is Independence Day. No, not the new one, not that trash, the original one. And it'd be cool to have sort of a space sequence where it's you and a bunch of other UNSC fighters versus a bunch of Covenant or Prometheans or whatever, and you've got the big ships in the background, and it's just massive chaos everywhere, ships going in all directions. We got a taste of that in Halo Reach, but I'd love to see that beefed up in scale. We've seen similar things in Star Fox, but it'd be cool if Halo incorporated something like that just so that you get a grander feel in terms of the overall scale of the Human Covenant War. So excellent question, Hamza. Thank you. Our next question comes from Michael Gardner. And Michael asks, what is the worst level in Halo Combat Evolved? Easy, the library. It's only flood-based, it's long, repetitive, and boring. I have more of a respect for it now than I did when I first played it, but it still is, in my opinion, the worst level in Halo Combat Evolved. It's a good question, Michael. Thank you. Our next question comes from Ethan the Amazing HD. Now, what would it be if you didn't have HD? So Ethan asks, what's your favorite Red vs. Blue season and character? Also an easy question for me. So, honestly, it's a tie, because Season 8 is my favorite season. It just had some of the coolest episodes with, what's it called? Take It Up to 11 or something like that. Or this one goes to 11. where Tex is kicking everyone's ass. That one's good. The 19th episode where they were dealing with the avalanche and it was Tex versus the meta. I thought that was awesome. My favorite character, though, is easily Caboose. I know the guy in person. He's a great guy, Joel. But his character lines are just so memorable. Cannot forget them. Sarge is definitely a close second, though. So that's a good question, too. Thank you. Our next question comes from Arius Latus. And Arius asks, when you first stepped onto the Halo in Halo CE, what was the feeling you had at that moment? Confusion. Because I'd never played an open world or a seemingly open world FPS before. I'd played ones like Doom and Quake, and it was pretty much linear in those games. But here you actually had a choice for the first time. You had this massive environment. I'm sitting there trying to contend with the fact that I'm on a ring instead of a planet. And just the way everything felt organic. The aliens, the weapons never seemed copy-pasted. They were so unique. Some of the aliens were funny, some of them terrifying, and as the story just evolved, it became clear that this would be my favorite franchise of all time. So, how did I feel in that moment? Just a sense of awe. So that's an excellent question, Arius. Thank you. And I'm sorry I missed your question last week, by the way. Our next question comes from Nathan Freeman. Any relation to Gordon Freeman? And Nathan asks, after the Reclaimer saga, where would you like the story to go next? Honestly, nowhere. I want them to stop making Halo games at this point. I don't want them to milk it to the point where people start resenting it. But if it has to go anywhere, I don't want them to continue the story after the current events. I'd rather explore the past a little bit and just see the background of the different characters. See what brought Blue Team back to the Master Chief. See why Spartan, what's his name, Buck, left being an ODST and became a Spartan. I'd like to see some backstory on Locke too. I'm not really a big fan of him as a character, but if he's going to be one, I'd like to know a little bit more about him. So, in short, nothing after the Reclaimer saga, chronologically at least, but if we are to have another Halo game or another trilogy, I'd like to see some of the events that happened while Master Chief was in cryosleep after the events of Halo 3. So, excellent question. Thank you. Our next question comes from my main man, Arc48, and Arc asks, I don't know if this has to do with your hand or not, but why do you only play Firefight and not regular multiplayer? So it has nothing to do with my hand. As I've said in the past, I've always been terrible at multiplayer. I've always had a jitter problem with the controller, even before my accident. The accident just made it worse. That's not really the reason. It's just I enjoy fighting AI characters over real players. For me, after Halo 3, I just didn't find it that much fun in terms of the multiplayer experience. I really wasn't that thrilled with Reach or Halo 4. Halo 5 Warzone, I like. Just regular Warzone, but again, I'd rather be having a team that's on my side, 8 players versus, entire squads of AI. Just to me in general, that's a lot more fun because I've always preferred the campaign over the multiplayer. So that's an excellent question. Thank you, Arc48. Our next question comes from Blue Banana. I don't know what's in that banana, but glad to know it's blue. And Blue Banana asks, how do you feel about the revival system? Personally, I love it. I know that I'm sort of the odd man out here. A lot of Halo players hate the new system. Personally, I love the squad system in general. I like the fact that you have people with you at all times. And the revival system in particular helps it so that you don't have these cheap deaths that you always seem to get via jackal snipers or, some enemies sneaking up behind you. Again, you don't have theater mode for campaign in 343's universe, so you can't really go back and see it later. But it's nice to have the revival system there. It could be improved upon, I think. But at least it's better than what it could be. But in short, I am pro revival system and pro squad system. So excellent question, Blue Banana, and keep staying blue. Our next question comes from Harambe. Funny story, Harambe. So I know you're a regular around here, and when I went to Animal Kingdom this past week, they actually have a section dedicated to Harambe the gorilla, and I thought that was pretty awesome. And oddly enough, the first thing I thought of was not the gorilla, it was you. So that's what kind of impact you have on me and this channel. So always good to see you. And Harambe's question is, what would you think if 343 released one big Halo per console and updated it like Minecraft, such as with DLC and stories and new maps and so forth, and also made spin-offs through the console's lifespan? Personally, Harambe, I would prefer they do that. I hate it when games always feel like they have to release another one, you know, a year or two later, and just, I'd rather them take something and continue building upon it. If you've already reached perfection with something, or you've done a really good job, just keep building on that instead of having, you know, someone start over. This is why I'm against Destiny 2, because everyone who sat there and worked their asses off to reach level cap in Destiny or get all their gear, it's all going to get wiped out in Destiny 2. Some people will like that, but to me it just says that you wasted a ton of time with the original Destiny. That's like if they came out with a sequel to World of Warcraft, and all of a sudden, you know, all those characters that you leveled to 110 and got all that armor and jewels and, you know, all those enchants and everything become obsolete. Just to me, it sort of takes away from it, and I wouldn't want to play anymore. I did hear that some of your Destiny stuff will carry over to Destiny 2, or you get something for it, but that's not enough for me. I want my character to transfer over. I don't like having to start over. I just want them to build on top of things. So if 343 decided Halo 6, we're going to make it a little bit more open universe, and instead of coming out with additional Halo games, we're just going to build onto this one, I would be all for that. So that is an excellent question, Harambe. Thank you. Our next question comes from Jack Ayers. Jack asks, do you think if Bungie were to still make Halo games, how do you think 4 and 5 would have went? Honestly, if Bungie were still in charge of Halo, I don't think it would have gone this far. More than, because, you know, they seem pretty adamant that Halo 3 was going to be the end of the Master Chief story arc. So if there were going to be additional Halo games by Bungie, I have a feeling they would take place at different points in the Halo universe. We already saw this with ODST and Reach, and I have a feeling they would have just shown different perspectives. Maybe they would have done a game about Harvest. Maybe they would have done a game about, you know, the initial first contact with the Covenant in general. Or maybe, you know, the Arbiter's perspective of the war. But definitely, I don't think they would have continued the same way that 343 Industries did. But that is an excellent question, Jack. Thank you. Our next question comes from Moria Jackson. Always good to hear from you. And Moria asks, what event in the Haloverse would you want to be published in a book that has not already been made? Well, that's an interesting one. See, I haven't read most of the books. In fact, I'm not a big reader anymore like I used to be. And to be honest with you, I'm not even sure if this has been done or not, because they've made, what, 117 Halo books or something along those lines. But if I had to pick one thing that would pique my interest, it would be seeing Arbiters and the formation of the Swords of St. Helios. Because when we left Arbiter in Halo 3, he was heading back to St. Helios, and we weren't even aware that there was still a war going on. We thought the Covenant was over with at that point. So seeing that conflict erupt and the formation of the Swords of St. Helios, to me, would be interesting, because even though I was still conflicted about Arbiter being a character in Halo 2 in terms of being playable, I do like him as a character, and I'd love to know more about him. So that's a good question. Thank you. Our next question comes from CFunk99. CFunk99, C-Funk run. Run, Funk, run. Sorry. Funk asks, do you think we'll see Master Chief's full face in Halo 6? No, I don't. I was really surprised to see they revealed as much as they did in Halo 4, which is why for a while I thought Halo 4 was going to be the last game. But Bungie at least stated that Master Chief was supposed to be a personification of the player, not so much a character. I know 343 seems to be moving in a different direction from that perspective, but I don't think they'll push it that far. I think it takes something away from Master Chief and the whole mystery behind him if you know exactly what he looks like. But that's still an interesting question. Thank you. And our final question of the night comes from Weston Gold. That is a badass name. And Weston asks, do you think the Halo 6 beta will be announced this year and possibly obtained through buying an Xbox Scorpio? So a couple of things here. First of all, it's interesting that you asked that question because we really haven't seen 343 really experiment with the whole concept of betas, at least not to my knowledge. I could be wrong here and maybe just wasn't keeping track. But, you know, that seems to be a Bungie era thing. It would be beneficial to them if they released a beta for Halo 6 because of all the controversy behind Halo 4 and 5. And they need the input of the fans desperately for Halo 6 if they're going to change the game around, if they're going to turn the tide and make people trust 343 Industries with the concept of Halo. It would be an excellent move on their part. In terms of when they would announce it, definitely not this year. Right now, the next major Halo title is slated for a late 2018 release. My guess is by E3 2017, we will finally see a teaser trailer for that game. In terms of a beta, if we are going to have a beta, and that is a big if, most likely we're not going to hear about it until sometime first or second quarter of next year. In the past, betas have come out only a matter of months before the actual game. This isn't so that they can overhaul the game completely, so much as just make a few tweaks. When a beta comes out, they already have the game planned. They already have the basics out there. Betas are out there primarily just so that they can make some tweaks. Maybe tweaks to weapons, maybe weapons damage, maybe player abilities, but for the most part, that's all it's there for. It's not to make any massive changes. So, but do I believe that it will be for Project Scorpio? I hope so. It'd be kind of cool. You know, that would be interesting though, because we've only had 2 major Halo titles for the Xbox One. It'd be really interesting to see them jump so quickly to the next major thing. But that would be a great way to actually sell the Scorpio, is to make it so that it would be the way that the next major Halo title debuts. I think that would have been a great thing for Halo if they had done that with the 360 with Halo 2. Instead, they had to make it for Xbox, and so the graphics didn't line up, the game was rushed. In terms of the Xbox One, it probably would have helped if they had had Halo 4 for that, because it really did push the limits for the 360, but Microsoft seems to have a hard time learning their lesson here. But maybe they'll correct it this time around, and hopefully they'll have it for Scorpio. I'd also like to see some sort of VR implemented. You know, it's worked well for other games. It'd be interesting to see the take on the Halo universe for that, or at least leave the possibility open for it down the road. So that's an excellent question, Weston. Thank you so much. And again, that is our final question for the evening. So thank you guys so much for asking your questions, for participating in my weekly Q&As. Again, this is my favorite part of the week, and I always love hearing from you. You are my family. You are my community, and it's always good to have you around. If you have any questions for me for future videos, please feel free. In terms of next week's video, leave your question in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to get to it next time. If I accidentally miss it, again, go ahead and post it the next week as well, and just make a little notation somewhere in there that this is the second time you've asked. And again, if I still manage to miss it, hit me up on Twitter. Speaking of Twitter, my links to my social media can be found in the description below. That's for Twitter and Facebook. Fair warning, I don't really answer messages on Facebook because I don't pay a lot of attention to that page. It's mostly there for people who don't have Twitter, but I am very quick at answering Twitter questions. So definitely hit me up on Twitter if you're not already following me. Great way to interact, and I love interacting with you. And if you like this video, please hit the subscribe button for more video game related content every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday right here on MythicTyrant.com. Don't forget about Q&A Saturdays, because that's where we are today. And of course, Sunday Fun Days. Seems like you guys really liked the one I had last week, which was titled How Halo 4 Should Have Ended. I don't really have anything like that for you tomorrow, but I do have something cool for you, and I think you're really going to like it. So definitely stay tuned for that, but it's always good hearing from you guys. Thank you so much for watching, guys and gals. I'll see you right back here next time. Have an amazing weekend, and as always, I'm the Tyrant.